I'm a female 28. My childhood best friend we'll call Jess is also female 28. To put it simply, I don't think I'm any kind of prude. I just don't really feel comfortable with casual intimacy. Never have. My best friend knows this and has teased me about it lightly in the past. She's been in a long-term relationship for the last 3 years. I've mostly been single while working on my degree and starting my career. Jess lives in another state with her boyfriend, so we don't hang out much anymore. So about a month ago, I had a first date with a guy I'd been talking to for a bit. Thought it was going places, but he gave a weird vibe on the date, and I cut and ran early. On my way home, I stopped at a local pub, figured I'd have a drink to unwind and people watch till it wore off. I get there and it's pretty packed, Friday night and all, and there was no seating room at the bar. Took my drink and looked around. Most of the restaurant side of the pub was someone's birthday party, but there was a small table with a seat open off to the side, with a guy reading a book there. So I say, F it, I'm a social person, and what's the worst thing that happens? He says no? So I ask if I can sit there for a bit. I promise we don't have to talk or anything. At this point, I feel like I've messed up because this guy up close is the hottest man I have ever seen. But he just smiled at me and gave an enthusiastic, sure. A few minutes later, of me sipping in silence, and he says, I don't mind talking if you want to. We talk for a bit, and it turns out Mike, fake name, is 29, just finished his master's degree in some kind of computer learning field. I program computers to program computers, and he's living on his own for the first time. He apparently stops by the pub after work because he's right around the corner, and he's not used to the silence yet after living so long with a half-dozen siblings. We talked for a good 2 hours about everything from dating, which he said he's basically given up on, to hobbies and tastes, and we have a near total eclipse of a Venn diagram on this stuff. I eventually sort of blurted out that I don't know why he'd give up on dating. This is the closest thing I've had to a good date in forever. He gets kind of an odd look on his face and says, Tell you what, I have to go to the bathroom, but when I come back, I'll ask you out for real. Weird, but okay. Then it all clicks, because he doesn't get up to walk away, he just rolls in his wheelchair. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he wanted to give me a chance to back out of this without making it awkward. How cute can this guy be? He grinned like crazy when he got back and saw I was still there, and I basically tripped over myself saying something to the effect of, so I'm free all weekend. What did you have in mind? Another hour later, we've got plans for Saturday, and he told me he has a neuromuscular disorder. I can't remember the name of. So his legs work, but the signals from his brain get misinterpreted, so he doesn't have the balance or coordination for walking or standing. The pub starts switching over to the younger, rowdier crowd, and he asks if I'd like to go back to his place for coffee to continue our conversation. As you have probably long since realized, I did not get any coffee or conversation till the next morning, and I have zero regrets. We've been dating since, and I know it's still early, but I really feel like this might be the one. Onward to yesterday afternoon. My friend Jess is in town, and we go out for coffee to catch up on things. I'm gushing about Mike, but when I get to how we met, she just sort of got weird and edgy. I don't remember any exact words, but she essentially said that I must have a fetish for the handicapped, since I broke my number one rule, and it's the best physical relationship I've ever been in. Like it's good for me because he uses a wheelchair, not because the guy puts in effort in bed. She said I've changed as a person and left without even saying goodbye. 15 years of friendship, and I've never seen her like that. So here I am, asking the most objective people online if I'm a jerk or weird for being super attracted to a guy who uses a wheelchair and basically putting out immediately. Now for the update. My first ever update. Yay! So if you were hoping for some terrible drama, I hate to break it to you that I don't roll like that. No pun intended. So I do have an update on Jess, and it finally makes perfect sense. And I have a slightly NSFW but funny story about Mike, because this guy is just the best, y'all. Okay, so first, I finally messaged Jess yesterday and said, basically, I'm still hurt by what you said, but after 15 years of friendship, I'd never forgive myself if I didn't at least ask why you snapped at me like that. She replied immediately, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of that. Can we have a do-over on lunch?" So I agreed cautiously and took a half day to meet with her today. Turns out that those of you who said she was jealous and that she might have something else going on, and especially the person who said something might be going on in her relationship, gold stars. She's in town because she's job hunting, because she's moving back in with her parents for a while since her relationship ended. Apparently, they have been having a ton of small problems adding up, but the biggest one, intimacy. The guy she's been with was apparently never great, but it's gotten to the point where he makes no effort at all for her to enjoy herself and then gets pissed when she isn't in the mood. She tried talking with him about it, making suggestions, but he told her recently that it's emasculating being given intimacy advice by a woman. The straw that broke the metaphorical camel's back, however, was that her boyfriend has always had a thing for Asian women. She's Caucasian, but she does have long black hair. After weeks of fighting over their intimacy life, he suggested that they spice things up by her dressing in a kimono and pretending to be Asian. She lost it on him and is absolutely disgusted by the discriminatory fetishism and ended it right then. So she had all of this bottled up and was hoping to talk to me and finally be able to put it down. And I missed every hint that she had something big to discuss because I was gushing about Mike. So to her, it felt like I was just twisting the knife by bragging about how great our intimacy was. She snapped, and somewhere between what I was saying and what she wanted to talk about, some wires got crossed, and she said something incredibly dumb. She left without saying goodbye because she was mortified and ashamed as well as irrationally mad at me. Something to know about Jess. She's an awful liar, and she and I were the co-founders of our high school's Foot and Mouth Society, so I do believe her. I told her I forgive her, and I'm sorry I didn't realize she wanted to talk about something bothering her, and she said I was too stupidly nice and have nothing to apologize for, so I think we'll be okay. For the time being, I'm not ready for her and Mike to meet because I don't want to make things feel worse, and she agrees, but she's really, really happy for me. Hopefully, this is just a funny story we can look back on someday. So, on to how Mike almost ended the life of me, lol. Last night we were talking about the Reddit post, and he gets this funny expression that I'm starting to recognize. And he goes, "How do we know you don't have a fetish if we haven't at least tried it in the chair?" And I'm like, "Are you serious, lol?" He said he's never attempted it because, cue tears, he's never felt so comfortable with a partner before. Well, his chair has what is essentially like a parking brake thing. Or it should, it's unfortunately broken. And apparently getting them fixed is an expensive pain in the butt. He doesn't use it that often, so he hasn't made it a priority. And there's this thing called Newton's third law. You know how every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As it happens, when you're trying to, get the motion of the ocean going, in a chair with wheels that aren't locked, there's a sort of counter motion that starts and messes it all up. So we were going nowhere fast except for inching along the floor in his bedroom and laughing at the silliness, which isn't helping. Eventually, he just stops and says, "Maybe we can get some of those wooden block things they use to keep little planes from rolling away, like in Indiana Jones, you know?" I absolutely lost it. Like laughing so hard I'm in tears. He's giggling half at the situation and half at my reaction, and everything just keeps setting me off again. Finally, I get it under control, doing some deep breathing exercises and stuff, and I look at him again, and he pulls the straightest face he can and says, "For the love of God, golly, this sure is uncomfortable." Folks, if I had asthma, I would have died right there. I laughed so hard, I think I pulled a rib, like wheezing and not even laughing anymore so much as weeping and making this awful hee noise when I could catch my breath. While he's laughing and rubbing my back and saying he's sorry, he couldn't resist. So yeah, confirmed, no fetish here, and this magnificent bastard's comedic timing might actually unalive me. I doubt I'll update again because there's really nothing I can see needing to share given everything sort of worked out. And in the end, the real jerks were the friends we made along the way. Eirik? Thanks for all the lovely comments on my last post and for coming along with me on this absurd but brief drama in my life. Lol. Hello again. I was going to post this on my own page, but a few people mentioned that they think it's nice to read on. Am I the idiot? So here's the Met Mike's family update. And it's a doozy, or at least felt like it at the time, for a girl who grew up with a small, dysfunctional family. So first up, you know what people, at least me, don't think about when dating a guy who's always sitting? Height. I know he's taller than me because we cuddle a lot, and he's taller sitting on the couch, but I didn't really get it. So we drive up Friday night after work, actually south and west, lol. But to my brain, it's always up in his vehicle, which is modified to be driven entirely using his hands. Neat, right? He's a really good driver too. One more green flag. We get to the house, and it's huge, you guys. LOL, like not a mansion, just kind of a sprawling one-floor rancher. Real estate was wild back in the day. Anyway, we get out and I meet his mom. I'd like to point out I am no slouch. I'm 5'9". Friggin' 7. His mom is towering over me, but she was the nicest lady ever. We go inside and I meet his dad, who funny enough is apparently the only short one in this family, and his youngest sister, who is living there with his 1-year-old niece. She gets up to hug me, and she is also really tall. It's already a bit late then, so we eat and head to bed. I get to see his cutest shoot room from when he was a teenager, and I casually ask, hey, so I don't know how this works and stuff, but how tall are you? And Mike is all, I don't know, like a bit over 6'4". Been a while since I checked. A bit over 6'4". So is everyone in your family tall? Kinda? We met the Nordic basketball team he calls a family properly the next day. Actually, they're Irish, but they're blonde and tall, so it conveys the idea better. The only one of reasonable height, and still taller than me, was his oldest sister, lol. They are also loud, like not really shouting or anything usually, just present. Mike is a lot different around them, but in the cutest way, like he just beams all the time, and you can see how happy he is to be home. One of his brothers put him in a headlock and gave him a dang noogie as a greeting, and got elbowed in the side for it, and all of them laughing. And his mom smacked one of his brothers with a rolled-up magazine for putting his feet on the table. More laughing. Just intimidating, but in the happiest way imaginable. I'll admit I was a little shut down for a bit, but Mike kept checking in with me to make sure I was okay, and they were all really nice. So I got into the spirit after a bit. Mike has a special sports wheelchair he uses for, well, sports. And he and his siblings play basketball. And he is good. Apart from just having a hell of an arm, he's quick as hell. And this magnificent bastard that I love will absolutely, purposefully, gleefully run someone's toes over. He aims for it. They all have this yank back the foot maneuver that's hysterical to watch. So it was this crazy day of loud people playing and having a blast, nieces and nephews running around, and just noise. My ears are still ringing. The food was catered in advance because his mom had 7 babies. All I make on Mother's Day is margaritas. They also have a pool. It's a bit chilly still, but the pool is heated, so we actually all got to swim, which was a lot of fun because I got to show off that I too am athletic. I can do a backward somersault off a diving board. Yeah, I'm a real catch, lol. They at least pretended to be impressed. We all stayed up late, drinking and complaining that it was too overcast to see the aurora, boo, and I had the worst hangover I've had in a while on Sunday. We slept in a bit late and then joined Mike's family for the barbecue part of the barbecue weekend. His dad can grill people, and he's fast, food coming off the grill at lightning speed. I asked Mike about it, and he laughed and said, there were 7 of us to feed. Ever see a nest of baby birds? He had practice, which, fair enough. I don't have much experience with babies, but I got to hold his youngest niece, the one living at home with his sis, until her husband gets back from deployment. And we had a light talk about kids in the future. I told him that I never put much thought into it, but if they were going to grow up in a happy home like his, and not how I grew up, I'm pretty sure I'd be open to having them with him someday. But later, I need him all to myself for a while first. He seemed really, really happy about that, which makes me feel all goofy and happy. I'm sappy. We had to drive home Sunday night, but before we went, his mom hugged me and said she's never seen her son like this. and thanked me for taking good care of her baby and asked if we'd be back for the 4th of July or if we were doing something with my family. And I tried to be all, no, we'll be here if you don't mind. I don't see them much. And I think she caught on that there's more to the story. So she just hugged the shoot out of me, Vikings, all of them, I swear, and told me she can't wait to see me again. My ears are still ringing from all the noise and chaos. But it was an absolute blast, and I can't wait to see them again in July. Also, pretty much sure Mike is the man I'm going to marry. I literally can't think of a single reason why I would ever let him get away. Anyway, thanks for reading. Hope you all had a lovely weekend. And those of you who got to see the aurora, I'm happy for you, but you suck, lol. Now for the 4th of July update. As I've gotten a ton of requests for updates, I figured I would let you guys know how things are going in my world. You know how sometimes a relationship looks amazing at first, but then all the red flags start showing up? This isn't one of those stories, lol. Sorry, that was mean, but I couldn't resist. Okay, on to the actual update. No, we aren't engaged yet. Yes, we have talked about it in the context of how seriously we are taking things. No babies yet either. Obviously, we are diligent about birth control. I want Mike all to myself for a while. So, the 4th of July visit to his family's house was pretty awesome. After getting to know everyone last time, I had better expectations of what I was going into. And I've talked with my therapist about the whole play fighting makes me anxious, because in my childhood home, it wasn't playing thing. I don't want them to ever curb how they act to cater to me. And instead, I guess I'll consider it immersion therapy. I think Mike mentioned it anyway, because I didn't see much of it this time. Though there were cheerful threats of doom lobbed about, which I didn't mind at all. His mom is amazing, I'd like to point out, even if she moms so hard it makes me weepy. So, background info. I have a really common-sounding name spelled really uncommonly. Think Danielle or Jessica. Because in addition to everything else, my parents decided to be creative when they named me. So although I do sort of like my name, that meant I was that kid who never saw their name personalized on anything. Mike's family, on the other hand, had like 1 million kids, and they all got traditional names. So personalized stuff was huge for them. It kept them from fighting over stuff, I guess. One of the things in their house, because they have a pool, is that each of the kids, adults now, has their own personalized beach towel that lives at the house. So we get to their place, and it's been a hot drive there. So right after we get in, Mike suggests I go to his room to get changed into a swimsuit so we can have a dip in the pool. I'm thinking that sounds perfect, right? Some of you may already know where this is going. I get to his room, and there is a towel on the bed in my favorite color, with my freaking stupid-ass spelled name embroidered into it. So here I am, crying over a goddamn towel, and he's in the doorway watching and grinning like he just pranked me or some shoot. Turns out it was her idea, but she checked with Mike to make sure it was spelled right. So now I have a towel for when we visit, because apparently I'm welcome. If I sound cranky, it's just because I'm better at self-depreciation than I am expressing emotions in a direct way. I really am blown away and touched by how much these people have welcomed me. Mike has already sort of learned to decode the way I talk and joke, which is nice. But the first time he gently said, "That's not humor. That's just putting yourself down, babe." I definitely wanted to go hide under the table. He doesn't let me be mean to me. That's a thing good partners do, I guess. I wouldn't know. Again, yes, I am in therapy. I am working on myself. It's not his responsibility to put me back together. It's just something he does naturally. I literally told him one night that I was sorry I'm kind of broken, and he snorted and said, "At least you can walk," in the most disgusted voice ever, and made me laugh. I digress. So the food was once again amazing, and I kept my promise to teach his mom how to make my cinnamon bun bread pudding, so I felt like I contributed. I learned to play Yahtzee, and as it turns out, I am very good at it. They do a lot of board games things at night when everyone is staying for the week. These people have a lot of board games and puzzles, whole damn storage closet of the things. They also drink like ducking fish and can hold it, so I am learning to pace myself. Mike doesn't drink much when we aren't there, so I'm not worried that it's a red flag. Only red flag of his that I've found was a Red Sox pennant in his room. Now I realize I might be talking him up a lot, but he isn't perfect. He snores, he has a habit of arguing with people on the TV when they make stupid decisions. He sometimes starts talking about things I don't understand and just goes and goes until he realizes he lost me like 15 minutes ago. And he is fastidiously tidy, which makes me feel guilty because I have bad habits to lose. I'm not used to. Clutter means I can't move through an area, but I'm really trying. I barely spend any time at my own place anymore, and we're definitely looking to move in together sooner than later. Yeah, so not that much of an update. No one burned themselves on a firework or anything super exciting. I'm just in an ongoing relationship with a great guy who has a great family, and things continue to look up for us. We head home tonight so we can spend some alone time Sunday. Hope everyone else had a safe and happy holiday. It can be served hot as is or brought somewhere and reheated in an oven for a bit, but if you reheat it, cover it so the icing doesn't dry out. Times and temps subject to your oven and size of your eggs. Hee hee, that's what she said. Seriously, I am incapable of being normal. I debated just posting this on my own page, but shoot, like a lot of people keep asking for more, so I guess it doesn't hurt to drop my post between Aita for literally ending the life of someone and Aita for meekly accepting my in-laws' cruelty but asking if I may wash my wounds before they flog me again. This is not an exciting update. Not engaged, no babies on the way, not even freakishly tall ones like some of you are hexing me with. But Jess finally met Mike. I mean, I'm not sorry. I feel compelled to open with a joke, and I don't know why. Anyway, she thinks he's amazing. She thinks it is hysterical that I'm on TikTok. I refuse to download it, and she is doing amazing. And our lives are moving forward together. Jess and I have this friend who I will call Meg. Meg was planning to have a birthday party, the big 3-0, and she and Jess are close, and both presently single. They chose a local bar with outside seating, and Jess did a wait, let's check their accessibility, because I have been bitching to her for the last month. And lol, and behold, after calling the place, they didn't have a ramp for the balcony outside seating area. As I have been told, Jess said, nope, I am meeting Mr. Throwraw, Jess, come on. And so they found another place that's a damn hike from everyone. But it has a great outside area with accessibility. And then we got the invite through Facebook, because we are all basic, I guess. And Mike was stoked because they have this awesome beer selection. Full stop. I hate hops. So then Meg told us that they chose it because Jess wanted Mike to feel welcome. So hats off to Jess for making the comeback impression of the century, I guess. The birthday was fun and silly, and everyone in my immediate friend group met Mike and loved him. Tons of laughter, everyone drank way too much, but fortunately, we had enough heads up for a planned motel stay. Why, yes, I do own a UV flashlight. Why do you ask? So we and a bunch of other people didn't drive home. We actually had brunch in the bar the next day. It was absolutely awesome, and I am ruined for pancakes because fluffy. Once again, I digress. Jess and Mike hit it off, and she told him literally every story I didn't want her to over brunch, and it all was great, apart from the persistent hangover. I crashed at Mike's again, and then he asked what it would cost to break my lease, because he hates the mornings he wakes up and I'm not there. So the next upcoming week and a half or so is going to be insane while I pack up my whole damn life and shove half into a storage unit and the other half into his apartment, and then we'll be living together. I know it's too soon. He does too. We've decided we're idiots and just going for it. My landlord is a lady who is a bit on the older side and isn't charging me for breaking the lease as long as I leave the place ready for a new renter. So I may respond to comments for a bit right away, but expect a lot of silence for a while after. True TLDR, best friend made a good second impression, and I'm moving in with Mike ahead of schedule. I should be worried, but I'm actually just really excited. Wish me luck. Am I the idiot for wanting to explore my sexuality while engaged and expecting my fiancé to be okay with it? Betty, female 27, and I, male 30, got engaged in January after dating for a couple of years. Our plan was to get married next year when we had saved enough money for the wedding. Shortly after getting engaged, we moved in together at the end of January. In May, Betty was a bridesmaid for one of her friends. I was unable to attend due to my job and the fact it was a 5-day trip. Betty had a great time reconnecting with some of her old friends, but a couple of weeks after she got back, she became moody and withdrawn. I was relieved when she made an appointment with a therapist since she hadn't opened up to me about what was troubling her. After about 5 or 6 sessions, she sat me down one Saturday morning so we could talk. Betty had been raised in a very conservative household and had to suppress her desires until she moved out to go to college. Even then, certain ideas she denied and refused to embrace. At the wedding, she was introduced to the wife of one of her girlfriends from college, and it triggered a lot of repressed desires over the days they all hung out before the wedding. She told me she felt romantic and intimacy attraction to women as well as men and realized she was bisexual. I told her I was happy she finally felt safe in sharing this with me, and it didn't change how I felt about her. It was a very emotional moment. She asked me how I felt about her exploring her sexuality now that it was out in the open. I said I was open to exploring it with her and possibly having a threesome with another woman to let her have that experience. She wanted a one-on-one experience with another woman and felt she couldn't do that with me present. I told her that sounded more like an affair and something I wasn't comfortable with. I asked her if she wanted to cancel the wedding and maybe separate while she figured out what she wanted to do. She was adamant that was not what she wanted, and she was still very much in love with me and still wanted to get married. But she felt like she had to explore these feelings she was embracing before we settled down together. I asked her if she had done anything inappropriate at the wedding and cheated on me. I asked if she had someone in mind or had been talking to someone since she came back. She admitted to dancing with a girl at the reception, and they kissed at the end of the night, but nothing else happened. But she denied talking to anyone or pre-planning anything. She knows this was a lot to throw on my plate all at once, and she didn't expect an answer right away. She just asked that I keep an open mind and keep talking about it. I couldn't promise anything, but I agreed to do some research and talk to a workmate that has an open marriage to see how they cope. I did warn her if I found out she lied or was doing anything behind my back, there would be no second chances and I would leave. My workmate has been super helpful and open about their relationship. My brother got me into a support group that has helped me come to terms with our relationship changes. I'm burning my way through my second book and sat Betty down Thursday night to check in and talk about moving forward. I found us a couples therapist. I gave her the book I had finished, and I told her we should postpone the wedding for 6 months and then decide if that's the path we are still on. I was on a roll when she stopped me and asked me if I was planning on dating other people, like that never occurred to her that I would be dating as well. She kind of shut down after that, barely giving one-word answers when I would ask her something. I think the longest sentence I got was, "I just don't know." She has been like that for 24 hours now, like she is lost in a fog. I'm just bracing myself for the inevitable flood of emotions. I would have thought she would be happy that I was considering opening our relationship. Now for the update. Saturday night, her fog lifted and things got pretty heated. She said that the open relationship was my way of punishing her and being vindictive by dating other women. She was just asking for some grace to explore her feelings. I replied that she showed almost no remorse for cheating on me and instead expected an open-ended hall pass to do so again. I told her our friends had told me she asked them not to say anything about what happened at the wedding, so I would probably never know the full truth and just had to accept it was worse than she admitted to. I asked if she thought it was fair to go have intimacy with other people while I waited by the door, like some lovesick puppy who was expected just to wag his tail when she decided to come home and show me some attention. It devolved after that, and some hurtful things were said by us both. I finally gave her 3 options if she wanted to move forward. 1. Monogamy. Postpone the wedding and go to couples counseling. No experimenting. When we get to a good place, then go ahead with the wedding with a prenup to protect me if she changes her mind and/or cheats again. 2. Open relationship. We can both date who we want, and she can figure out her sexuality on her own terms. In a year or so, we can see if marriage still seems like a good option if we are still together. 3. Full separation. She moves out, and we can each be free to live our lives as we see fit. If when she decides she wants monogamy with me, if I haven't moved on, then we can try option number 1. But it would be a new beginning, not just picking up where we left off. She decided she needed some space to think things out and is going to stay with friends for a couple of days. I told her before she left that if she accidentally cheated while she was gone, to not come back except to pick up the rest of her things. This morning, I got a text from her. "I'm so sorry." She didn't answer when I asked her what she meant, and my call went to voicemail. I'm not going to reach out to her again, and I will wait to let her contact me when she is ready. Now for a few important comments. One commenter said, "Looks like your partner has been a bit self-centered about this. Good idea to take your time regarding your engagement. The death of exclusivity, even as a hypothetical, can be a pretty destabilizing thing for an established mono relationship. Keep talking. You seem to be handling this very well, somewhat better than her, I think." OP replied, "I tried to handle this respectfully, but it seems fair to her is an open pass for her but not for me, and I'm expected to support her while she has intimacy and possibly develops feelings for someone else, and just smile and nod." And then she got upset when I had to remind her she was the one that cheated. Then OP added, "I just finished printing out cards to send to everyone we sent the save the date notices to advising them we are canceling the wedding. Not sure how I'm going to respond when they start asking why. The cards I'm sending out just have due to new circumstances on them." Another commenter said, "If the person asking is part of the group who withheld information from you, consider telling them the truth, that your fiancé cheated on you and her friends colluded to keep it from you. Consider telling that friend what you think of them for not having your back at such an important moment." I had that conversation with the friend who confirmed what Betty had told me. When I questioned him later, he said Betty had made them promise not to tell me on the trip back home. He and his wife and one of the other bridesmaids were the only ones that saw them kissing. He also told me who the other woman was. She lives in a different state. Previously, my fiancé announced she was bisexual and had made out with a woman at her friend's wedding. On Wednesday, Betty went to her previously scheduled appointment with her therapist and told her what happened between us. Not sure what all was said, but she called me on the way to her friend's house, apologizing for some of the things she said and wanted to come home and talk things out. I told her to stay at her friend's house tonight and think about what she wanted, and she could come home Thursday and we could sit down and work things out. On Thursday, we met at the house and talked over dinner. We both apologized for getting heated and saying some unfair things to each other. After talking to her therapist and having several conversations with her best friend over the last few days, she has decided not to explore her bisexual urges. The idea of a truly open relationship where I was free to sleep with other people terrified her, and getting married was more important than chasing the rainbow. Her original idea had been just a free pass to see if she was missing something in her life and how important it was to her. I asked what was she asking for? A one-night stand, just dating a woman, or having a full relationship? She couldn't tell me exactly what she wanted. I said that didn't sound very monogamous to me, or very fair. She agreed, and that was why she was giving up on exploring those feelings. Next, she brought up the notes I sent out, canceling our save-the-date notices for our wedding day. She said she was getting all kinds of calls about what happened and was caught unaware about what they were even talking about at first. She was upset I did that without talking to her first. I reminded her that she lobbed 2 grenades in my lap, coming out as bisexual, and that she cheated on me, then left and wouldn't talk with me except for a cryptic, "I'm so sorry" text, followed by silence. While I never said anything other than we were having issues and had to postpone the wedding, Evidently, there was speculation that she had cheated on me. She switched gears and said we could still get back on track and get married next spring. No, because now when one of us is out of town, my mind will be thinking about you cheating again, especially after coming out and wanting to have an affair to explore your sexuality. I said maybe after couples therapy, we could get back to a good place again, but not by the end of the year. And it would be foolish to start planning and making financial commitments before we even knew if therapy was going to work. Plus, I wanted a prenup to protect everything I brought into the marriage, as well as my future retirement savings. Plus, she would forfeit any equity if we bought a house. When she protested, I said if you plan to be faithful and not change your mind later, then it would never be a thing. Just something to give me some peace of mind. It's been an ongoing conversation for the last few days. Betty wants to rug sweep the incident at the wedding and move forward with our wedding. Exploring her sexuality is not worth sacrificing our relationship, in her opinion. For now, we are back together and planning on counseling soon. In a post-clarity moment, I realize I rushed to embrace the idea of an open relationship to allow Betty the freedom to explore her new feelings, and I'm not as willing now to consider that option. I think separation is the better option, breaking up, if you will, till we both decide what direction our future lies and if it is with each other. It's not what I want, but I also don't want to spend the next 3 to 5 years together, only for her to change her mind or cheat on me one day. Now for a few important comments. When asked to clarify the chasing the rainbow comment, and if he has a problem with her sexuality, OP said, chasing the rainbow was her analogy, not mine. I didn't have a problem with her sexuality. The problem I had was she cheated. Granted, she only made out with someone and wanted permission to have intimacy with someone else. Male or female, that is unacceptable in what I thought was our monogamous relationship. Being bisexual doesn't give you the right to have intimacy with someone else while you are already in an exclusive relationship. It just means you are attracted to twice as many people. I do want to be with her and support her, but that doesn't mean I support her dating other people to explore her sexuality while in a relationship with me. On the best scenario being breaking up, OP said, most of the scenarios in my head end up in disaster. Breaking up and letting her find her center might be the best option. If in 3 to 6 months we both find we want to start over, then maybe it stands a better chance than us trying to just move forward the way we are now. But in 3 to 6 months, I think I will have moved on to something less complicated. The fact that she thought I wouldn't be enough and had to go experience something different to fulfill herself could be a deal breaker for me. Final comment from OP. We have counseling scheduled to see what is best for us. Until we firmly resolve this issue, we won't be getting married. I don't want to have to deal with cheating or her wanting to open the marriage years down the line and then possibly getting divorced. Am I the idiot for kicking out my boyfriend after he burned my books and destroyed our manuscript? I have had to rewrite this multiple different times now as I keep breaking down. I don't know what to do, and I am completely lost. So apologies for any spelling errors or mistakes, as I'm not in the best place mentally. Note that all names are fake so that he doesn't find this, hopefully. Now a little backstory. I promise it will make sense. 9 years ago, I met my boyfriend, Adrian. I was in 9th grade and he was in 11th. He had moved in next door, and because we were too close for buses but too far to walk, he offered to drive me every day. Even after graduating, he drove me. We got really close and he became my best friend. We started dating 5 years ago. At that time, I began writing my first story, and Adrian's mom, as an author herself, began helping me. Together, we wrote, edited, and got my book ready to publish. Then in 2019, she passed away unexpectedly. Everyone was distraught, and I decided not to publish the book. Instead, I pushed myself more into work, working 16-hour days, and up until a year ago, I continued to do this. Adrian and I bought a little duplex and moved in together. We rented the other half of it to a friend of his. Now, I've been getting into writing again and have cut back to working 12 hours a day. Over the course of the last decade, I've been buying books. I've spent a good $3,000 on books, and have like 175 I've bought myself at this point. I have another 50 that I got from his mom before she passed and also left in the will for me, and then a handful from friends over the years. Last time I went through them, I had 300 books. Now I know this might seem intense, but I have read almost every single one of these. Whenever I get a chance at work, when I have a day off, when I can't sleep, I read. Reading is the way I cope, I guess. Adrian knows how important my books are. He knows how much time, money, and energy I've put into getting them all and keeping them looking good. He himself has read a good bit of them and helps me take care of them. Last week we got into an argument. I don't remember what it was about, just that it lasted from the time I got off until almost noon. So at the least, it lasted 7 hours. Most of it was him screaming at me. I don't know if I fell asleep or what, but I genuinely don't remember any of it. However, it did end with him storming out of the house and leaving. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, and immediately I went to the spare room and started reading. It wasn't until he came in an hour before I had to leave for work that I stopped reading. When I got off work the next morning, I immediately went home, took a shower, and fell asleep. I woke up to the fire alarm going off, and my husband frantically running around trying to get them to stop. Immediately, I went into the spare room to see if everything was okay. My books, specifically the shelf that had been gifted to me, were smoking. Some of them were on the floor. I asked him what had happened, and apparently he was playing with this new flame torch lighter when it caught one of my books on fire. It was on the top shelf, so while it wasn't too bad and he was able to get them out, there were a few books, the ones he threw on the floor. I asked him what book caught on fire, and he didn't respond. Instead, he just teared up and pointed. On the ground was the book his mom and I wrote together. I lost it. I asked him to leave, and when he tried to refuse, I threatened to call the police. It took 5 minutes of us arguing before I burst into tears and he finally left. It's been almost a week now. I haven't responded to him at all. I changed the locks on the house and even informed his friends that if they let him into my part of the house, I'd have all of them arrested. Last night, his father called me. We talked, and while he said that he understood why I was hurt, he thought I should let Adrian come back and try to fix it. I don't know if I can, though. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know what to do, and I just need advice. Edit to clear up confusion. No, we are not actually married. I never have and never will want to be married. We agreed we never wanted to get married. However, we are considered to be in a common law marriage because of how long we've been together. The book he burnt wasn't an actual book, not a professional one anyways. It was in a notebook that his mom and I were writing in. When I first wrote it, I wasn't allowed electronics and didn't get my first smartphone until I was 18, so it was just written in a notebook. Thank you all for the advice. I'm calling him, his dad, and my older brother tomorrow to meet for dinner. If it goes well, then it goes well. Hopefully, I won't have to do any more updates or edits. Now for a few important comments. A commenter said, "How dumb does someone have to be to use a flame torch inside and near obviously flammable books? It seems like it was on purpose. Also, the fact that he was shouting at you in the argument you had wasn't good either. It seems like he burnt your books on purpose." Then OP replied, "He constantly is playing with lighters. Usually he is very careful, but I can't see him burning things on purpose. Especially not that book." Another commenter asked, "How did he get the flame close enough to a book on the top shelf if his intent wasn't to burn that particular thing?" Someone else added, "He spent 7 hours screaming at you while you dissociated. That's intense. That isn't just genuinely upset. That's entering into complete emotional breakdown territory. He was able to sustain that tired against you for that long, to maintain intensity for that long, and that is a worry. The idea someone that emotionally intense might burn your book is not a big leap. Still, you zoning out like that is a worry. How often is that happening? How often have you had fights that intense? For you to be able to block that much out is a worry in and of itself. You don't need to let him back. If you do meet and discuss, it's in the open on neutral ground. You have strong grounds to consider that fire intentional harm So his presence in your house is a liability until further notice. It's quite clear he needs professional help, but it seems so do you. OP responded, I'm on a waiting list to go see a therapist, but the appointment is still about 2 months out. His dad was the one who suggested it to me a few months ago because I do have a tendency to just forget almost all arguments I've had. We don't know why. I think I might have fallen asleep because I don't have any other explanation as to why I don't remember it. She also added, I've had this problem with a lot of arguments ever since I was a teenager. It used to be a lot worse when I lived with my parents, but it got better after I moved out. I'm calling his dad and my older brother tomorrow, and I'm going to have him come with us to dinner before I go to work. I'm hoping that if we can't work it out, then we can at least end it peacefully and don't need to involve anyone else. Hi, I own a duplex with my ex-boyfriend. We live in ID, and I'm currently trying to leave. Everything is in both of our names, and we have separate finances. How do I go about getting my name off of everything so I can leave? I don't know how to do any of this, as while we were both on the titles, he did all of the paying and stuff. I've been doing a lot of research, but from what I've found, most of the advice is to get a lawyer. Do I have to get a lawyer? Now for a few comments. Is your ex willing to work with you? Step 1 is he'd need to refinance the mortgage to just his name. Do not sign the deed over to him until he does this. I haven't told him about me leaving yet, so I'm not sure yet. Hopefully he will. Thank you. A few months ago, I posted on here about my boyfriend burning a book that was very important to me. Multiple books, actually. A few days after that post, my brother, Isa, Adrian, and Adrian's dad all had lunch together a few days later, when my brother and I both got time off. I want to say it went well, that we talked and agreed on breaking up, and that we went our separate ways, but that would be a lie. We got there and Adrian wasn't there. His father had said that he had been out all night and so he was still asleep, but that he would join us when he woke up. So we waited another half hour before he finally showed up. We ordered and ate in silence until Adrian's dad asked when Adrian was allowed to move back in. Before I could say anything, Isaiah told them that he couldn't until I was moved out. Adrian didn't like this, and it quickly moved into a screaming match. I don't remember much after this. What I do know is that Isaiah and I left not long after, and when we got back home, we started packing my stuff. I have been living with him since. I have taken your guys' Revel advice and tried to report him to the authorities or get a restraining order, but they wouldn't take my report as he had never been physically hurtful towards me, and they didn't deem him a threat towards me. We then went and found a lawyer just in case something happens, and because I just know Adrian will start trouble with the house and cars. So I guess we're just preparing for that. Now for the good updates. I got into a doctor who believes I have a dissociative disorder and is sending me to a specialist. However, that is still a few months out. I am also going to be talking to a counselor twice a week, starting sometime this month. I haven't gotten a new job in hospice yet, but honestly, I don't think I want to at this moment. For the last month, I've been doing some smaller jobs such as babysitting, tutoring, and dog walking. In the meantime, I have been reading a lot more and have also been getting back into writing. I've actually recently discovered fan fiction and have joined a book group in my area. I'm going to be honest, I'm happier than I have been in a very long time, since before my dad came back at least. He did a lot of damage to not only me, but also to Isa, and we are both just starting to recover from it. So yeah, that's my update. Thank you to everyone who has helped me so far, but I think this might be the last time I use this account. So thank you.